Hello, I'm Josh Van Jura, and I'm UDOT's director of our Trails and Transit Group and the project manager for the Little Cottonwood Canyon Environmental Impact Statement, or EIS. We began this project over 5 years ago in coordination with our project partners, the Army Corps of Engineers, the USDA Forest Service, the Environmental Protection Agency, the Utah Transit Authority, and Salt Lake City's Public Utilities Group. And today we're releasing the Record of Decision, or the ROD, that identifies the selected alternatives. We've had amazing public input and coordination throughout this entire project, and I want to say thank you to everybody that took the time to review the materials and provide comments. There's no doubt in my mind that we have a better document because of this. We've developed new alternatives, we've refined alternatives, and we've done additional analysis to make sure that all environmental considerations were completely and accurately analyzed. So thank you. This is part one of a two-part video series. In this video, we'll discuss the selected alternative that was identified in the Record of Decision and how UDOT plans to implement this alternative. And then in the next video, we'll discuss the remaining phases and their implementation plan. The goal of this project is to substantially improve the transportation-related safety, reliability, and mobility on SR 210 from Fort Union Boulevard through the town of Alta for all users. Ultimately, UDOT wants to deliver transportation options that meet the needs of the community while preserving the values of the Wasatch Mountains and the experiences that individuals have when recreating in those mountains. Personally, I moved to Utah 25 years ago because of the recreation opportunities the Cottonwood Canyons provide, and I know how truly special this place is. A quick description of what 2050 is predicted to look like if no transportation improvements are made. Travel time on SR 210 is expected to be 80 to 85 minutes, and this is roughly 4 times longer than free-flow travel times, and we expect that this is going to occur 50 days per winter. So basically every Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and those weekday powder days. And the queuing on Wasatch Boulevard is expected to extend about 2.5 miles from the mouth of the canyon on those 50 days per winter. And this makes it really difficult for residents to navigate into and out of their neighborhoods. In the National Environmental Policy Act's process, the Record of Decision, or ROD, is the last step in the EIS process, and it concludes the environmental study process for Little Cottonwood Canyon. But it also begins the process of implementing solutions that are contained within the ROD to help improve transportation for both recreationalists and residents alike. The 5 action alternatives that we analyzed were 2 bus options, 2 gondola options, and a cog rail option. Between the final EIS and the Record of Decision, there were no design changes to any of these alternatives. The main change is that we revised the associated initial and life cycle cost estimates for each of these alternatives, and they can be seen here. The ROD also includes all the comments that we received on the final EIS and the supplemental information reports, and also responses to those comments. It is important to note that stops at trailheads were not considered for any of the 5 alternatives, but also that none of the alternatives would preclude future trailhead bus service if additional environmental review was done in coordination with the USDA Forest Service. Because all 5 transit-based alternatives have the capacity to remove approximately 500 cars per hour from the roadway, they all improve air quality and a variety of other environmental considerations. Based on the analysis of the environmental impacts, and considering public input, UDOT has identified Gondola Alternative B with phased implementation of components of the improved bus service as the selected alternative for improving overall reliability, mobility, and improving safety. UDOT doesn't have the funding to implement Gondola B, but 2023 Senate Bill 2 provided $150 million to help solve these problems Little Cottonwood is experiencing today, and these funds specifically say that the money has to be used for increased bus service, to provide a mobility hub, ski resort bus stops, and tolling infrastructure. And that is what UDOT's proposing for Phase 1 to help alleviate the traffic problems that we're seeing today in the canyon. UDOT's absolutely committed to making these improvements work so that we can improve conditions in Little Cottonwood Canyon as soon as possible. I think it's important to recognize that we're not building the solution to the 2050 problem today. We're trying to solve the immediate problems we're seeing in Phase 1, but we are environmentally clearing the solution to the 2050 problem. UDOT took many factors into consideration when identifying Gondola B as the selected alternative in the record of decision. The gondola has the highest travel time reliability, and that's because it operates in a separate alignment from the roadway. So it isn't prone to delays associated with heavy snow, crashes, slide-offs, or slow-moving traffic. These reliability benefits that the gondola bring will also make travel to the ski resorts a less stressful experience and help ensure that you can get to the resort and home from the resort in a reasonable amount of time while improving the quality of life for those residents along 9400 South and Wasatch Boulevard. Construction of the gondola and the associated towers will be a visual change to many canyon users, but the minimal impacts to resources such as watershed, air quality, noise, and wildlife, as well as the many other impacts, were thoroughly analyzed and considered when selecting the alternative. The revised capital cost is $729 million, and this includes approximately $210 million for tolling infrastructure, trailhead parking, snow sheds, and widening Wasatch Boulevard, which is consistent across all 5 action alternatives. The winter operation and maintenance costs of Gondola Alternative B is $4.4 million per year for winter service, and if summer service were implemented, then that number would increase by $3.3 million per year. Gondola B has the lowest annual operating and maintenance costs of the 5 alternatives, which results in substantial cost savings over a 30-year life cycle period. So let's talk about the phasing plan for a moment. During the public comment periods, many people suggested that UDOT start with increased busing, more parking, and tolling before moving to alternatives that have greater environmental impacts and require more infrastructure. And that's what UDOT has selected in the record of decision. In Phase 1, the phase will start immediately. This would include increased and improved bus service, as generally described in the enhanced bus service alternative, again with no canyon roadway widening, the construction of a mobility hub at the gravel pit, ski resort bus stops, and tolling, along with Upper Canyon parking restrictions. And this is exactly the list of items that was funded by SB 2 this past legislative session. In Phase 2, UDOT would proceed with the imbalance lane alternative for Wasatch Boulevard improvements, constructing snow sheds with realigned roads, and implementing trailhead improvements at 4 locations as funding allows. These improvements will improve air quality, protect the watershed, and increase the quality of life for residents and canyon users by reducing traffic congestion as private vehicles shift to transit. Again, UDOT's committed to ensuring that the Phase 1 improvements are successful, and we're going to strive to get these implemented as soon as possible so that residents and recreationalists alike can have better transportation options on SR 210. So let's do a quick overview of the Phase 1 improvements. The first would be improved and increased bus service. We anticipate that this will be 10 to 15 minute service from both the gravel pit and the 9400 South and Highland park and rides. It's important to remember that while this may be a service that's provided by UTA, it could also be provided by a private vendor or a hybrid solution of the two, and that is something that UDOT will start working on. Phase 1 will include the construction of roughly 1,500 stalls at the gravel pit mobility hub. And I think it's important to remember that the mobility hub will also accommodate potential inbound service from other UTA Valley routes. We will also construct bus stops at the ski resorts that will include lockers, restrooms, and can serve as a place for people to put their boots on, but also wait for a bus at the end of the day sheltered from the cold and snow. These bus stops will be located in Snowbird at Entry 1 near the existing UTA stop. The Alta bus stop will be between the Rustler and Alta lodges at a location often called the Mine Dump. This location will provide good access to not only Alta ski area patrons, but also employees and backcountry skiers, as it offers access to Pole Line Pass, Flagstaff, and Grizzly Gulch. Tolling. The EIS shows that to achieve 30% transit adoption, a variable toll of $25 to $30 per day would likely be needed. Maintaining equitable access to all users is very important to UDOT. So to reduce impacts to low-income populations, the toll would only be during the peak traffic periods, 7 to 10 a.m., on those roughly 50 days per year in the winter, and also the toll would only apply to those canyon users traveling to Snowbird Entry 1 or above. So lower canyon users would not be impacted. Also, UDOT recognizes if only Little Cottonwood Canyon were tolled, it's likely that some canyon users would go up Big Cottonwood Canyon to avoid the toll. Therefore, it's likely that Little and Big Cottonwood would be tolled in the same manner, including improved bus service in Big Cottonwood, so we can provide a reasonable transit option to avoid paying the toll. UDOT selected the no winter parking alternative, and this applies to roadside parking above Snowbird Entry 1. This would eliminate approximately 230 parking spots, again, where people are parked parallel to the white line on the shoulder of the road. Now, by law, you need to be parked 1 foot inside of the white line. But as we all know, this is really hard to do when the road's covered in snow. So the elimination of roadside parking will reduce the number of U-turns at the end of the day. It'll prevent vehicles from being parked over the white line, which results in traffic slowing and safety concerns. And these safety concerns are really because the occupants of these vehicles turn into pedestrians, often walking in the roadway. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and remember there is a second video that discusses the remaining components and their phased implementation. Thank you.